episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today is another wonderful day. I get to sit down with another amazing man of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Today I have with me Brother Karl Benson. He is with Zeta Nu Sigma Chapter out in Minnesota, and I am looking forward to spending some time with him today and learning more about him and his chapter. But first and foremost, as I always do, sir, I take a quick moment to pause and say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we cannot get it back. So I truly appreciate you setting aside this time in your day to sit down and chat with little old me. So with that, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. I was really excited. It's been a hectic time of day, but at the end of the day, I was looking at my calendar and realized I get to end it with you. So it works out really well.
Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. Thank you. And I was just noticing you are just Sigma'd out. You've got your lapel sharp. Anyways, as I open up, I always like to ask, how long have you been a Sigma and where have you pledged?
Right. By definition, I'm technically a Neo. I was initiated fall 2023, Zeta Nu Sigma Chapter in Minnesota. So really excited about that opportunity. Shortly thereafter, I was actually elected president of the Zeta Nu Sigma Chapter. So we're really excited for some of the things we got going on, but that is my story of coming across.
Well, that's curious. You pledged and walked right into leadership. Did that present any challenges, learning curves, learning opportunities?
I mean, there's always learning curves for sure. I mean, as a Sigma man, it's always something that you're learning all the time. You're constantly learning from the veteran, senior, old guys. But at the same time, I think from a business perspective, my background is such that it made a lot of sense. I knew a lot of the folks that were in the chapter. They somewhat knew me, and they sort of knew my capabilities. And I think that there was an opportunity simply because there were some folks that were, the term was ending relatively quickly, and they got to know me relatively quickly, and it just worked out.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Your particular line, was there a lot of brothers that came in, or was it just you?
There's only 6 of us. So our line was called Blue Prophecy. Our line is called Blue Prophecy. There's the 6 of us, and we were all pretty excited about that opportunity. And it was a real tight-knit group. We met, I think a few of us knew one another, but independently, but as a group, we were all new to one another. So it was kind of nice to sort of get to know everybody at the same time. We're still close, clearly, and we'll stay close throughout the rest of our lives.
Truly awesome. Okay, yeah. So let me ask you this, because most of the time when you think about the D9, you're more familiar with people pledging undergrad, but there are quite some few that will pledge later in life. So for you personally, what was it about this particular season in your life and Phi Beta Sigma that made it all happen at this particular time?
Right. So I turned 50 last year, and I think that really what it was really what it was Phi Beta Sigma sort of fell in line with the things that I was already doing. So I was really big in the community, serving my community in that way. Sending kids to college, or that higher education piece was also part of it. And because I have one brother, but that brotherhood was something I was sort of seeking out. So between, what we were looking at from our principles of Phi Beta Sigma, it just made the most sense. I always say I love blue. But there's a certain D9 organizations kept me out, but I mean, because I love blue so much, it just worked out really well. The stars aligned. Yep.
It all fit. How many brothers are there about in the Minnesota Sigmas?
So on paper, we have about 176. I'd like to believe that.
Big. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're spread out pretty well, though. So I think what we're really trying to do is get everybody a little more active, bring everybody back into the fold, I guess, because we're, clearly when you have that many folks, you kind of have them spread out. Some are active, inactive, and whatnot. But our goal, obviously, and my goal as president, is actually to bring everybody back. So active wise, we're probably close to 100, but I think we're still pretty good.
Okay, and your chapter is Twin Cities, right? Both.
Correct. It's technically Minnesota, so it's technically the state of Minnesota. Twin Cities is kind of where we're all located at, and I think that from that perspective, that's where we do most of our meetings, and most of our things are in the Minneapolis and St. Paul area.
Okay, and how many years have you gentlemen been around?
Since 1977. So it's been I laugh because I was born in 1972, but but it's great because a lot of the older guys have taken me under their wing, and it's kind of nice to sort of hear that historical perspective of what happened in, when they were founded here. So we have our 40th anniversary coming up pretty soon. The
Okay, okay.
chapters.
Okay,
Chapters
great.
40.
All
Yeah.
right, so stepped into leadership,
Yeah.
impressive. So I'm going to blink and look up, and you're going to be districts, regional something
Yeah.
or another, right?
We're gonna stick to where we are right now. I'm pretty
Oh,
excited where I'm at right now. So we'll see what happens
okay.
in the future.
Okay, I'm watching. So let me get into some of the community work that you are
Sure.
doing because,
Yeah.
I've been around Sigma since undergrad, and I know you
Mhm.
guys are heavily vested in the community, and your chapter
Mhm.
is no different. Now, one of the things that I saw you guys were involved in, and I think this is a nationwide initiative, is bigger and better
Mhm.
business. So
Yeah.
I saw on the Facebook page that us common folks have an opportunity to come hang out with you guys. I think it was first Wednesdays or something like that.
But yeah, it's first Wednesday, but we call it Blue Wednesday. So Blue Wednesday is an opportunity that we've adopted a Black-owned business called Jamaican Kitchen. They have 4 different locations within the Twin Cities. We've
Oh,
adopted the St. Paul. It's a brand new St. Paul location out on Wabasha, in downtown St. Paul. And the beauty of it, obviously, is they as an organization are also big in the community. They are also connected to community. So for us, when we were looking for that Black-owned business to sort of quote unquote adopt, it just made the most sense. It's a new location. They're passionate about what they do in the community as well, and it just made a perfect tie-in. So when we wanted to do a monthly event, monthly gathering, Blue Wednesday was kind of how we landed on it. And everybody loves Jamaican food, so it worked out
yes.
really, it worked out really well.
Give me
Everybody
some
loves it.
curry any day.
That's
Any day, any day.
exactly,
So
exactly.
the bigger and better
Yeah,
business initiative
sure.
program um
Yeah.
in the Minnesota area, is there some sort of way for a business to kind of get connected with you, or is there a process? How does it
Yeah,
happen?
so from a bigger and better business, it's one of our national programs. So one of the key components of that we call is Black spend, or spending Black dollars in Black
Okay.
communities and Black businesses. So part of the adopt a business was that aspect of it. But we also try to charge all of our members, and anyone in our community that we want to sort of tie into Black businesses and support Black businesses, because in Minnesota we know that we're not a huge population of folks. So if we can take our dollars and sort of put them back into Black-owned businesses, it works out really well. Whether we focus on it on a Blue Wednesday, or whether we just sort of take the initiative to our brothers and say, hey, in considering where you go out to eat, or in considering where you maybe do some event planning or party planning or event spaces, so let's see if we can sort of spend those dollars in our Black community. So that was something that we're really excited about when we start talking about Black spend. But we're also looking at it from some of the partnerships we have, both with Macy's and Men's Warehouse, where we're able to bring some of the boys that we work with, and get them fitted for suits and learn how to tie a tie and some of those type of things as well. So from a business standpoint, how do we connect not only the brothers that are in the chapter, but with the folks that we're serving and the boys that we serve as well.
Awesome, awesome. Let me
Yeah.
backtrack because I was clueless about. You said something. Minnesota is not really a large population of us.
Not really, no.
Oh.
Anywhere shocking but true. It's got a cold up here, but it's really a lot of transplants, right? So because with tons of Fortune 500 companies, and a lot of Black folks come
Yeah.
through primarily for work or business, and of course they bring their families with. The challenge for us, and what we always find, is that from even an alumni chapter, but also a collegiate chapter, is that most of the Black folks are sort of spread out throughout the entire, not only Twin Cities, but in some cases the whole state. So getting them tied together, and then also saying to yourself, you also have 4 other organizations if they want to be fraternity.
Gotcha.
But most of them come in a fraternity. I guess most of the men, or maybe the women too, come in a fraternity or a sorority. And our goal obviously is to try to connect them, try to find out when they're coming in, help support them, brothers that come in with their wives and families, and then sort of figure out a way to connect with them early. That's the goal, obviously. But yeah, I mean, in Minnesota, I don't even know the numbers anymore, but at one point, I think it was probably less than 12%, or maybe it was 12%. And that is kind of inclusive to college campuses. That number's got a lot of folks, Black folks in it. And then, of course, there's the families. And then there's immigrant community as well.
Yeah.
So it's just really depending upon how the numbers shake out.
Oh, wow. See, now Prince had us all, well, me, living under some sort of illusion that we were just kind of all hanging out, camped out there.
Well, I mean, in certain areas, you know, if you're heading to First Avenue back in the day, I mean, it was a fun time, and I think that was back with in my old life kind of deal. I did have the opportunity to meet him, and I could honestly say from a music scene, there is a little bit of that music Minneapolis sound kind of thing going too. So you find a lot of folks doing a lot of work in that space for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me get back to this. So I think I saw when I was roaming around preparing today, being nosy on your chapter seal, two other your advisors for 2 or 3 other undergrad. Did I see that correctly?
Our chapter, is that what you
your
said?
chapter, your
So
advisors.
So we have a couple collegiate chapters that are currently inactive. We're trying to reactivate them pretty soon. The 𝗙𝗘𝗏 chapter for sure is on the University of Minnesota. And that was actually founded by a number of the guys that are currently in Zeta Nu Sigma. So we're really focused on bringing that one back. And I think that's something that over the next year or so, you're going to see that come through as well. And a lot of the young brothers that we have on that University of Minnesota campus will be there.
Okay. All right. Last time I was out in Minnesota, I want to say it must have been 20 years. It was a visit to the Great Mall of America. Is that place still around? Because malls are closing.
It's still there, and it's a lot larger probably since you've seen it 20 years ago.
Oh,
yeah, they've expanded it twice, I believe, since in 20 years. So it's a lot bigger, and it's getting bigger again because they connected another hotel. So I think that, yeah, it's a large space, and it's now an event space too. So a lot of events happen there, more so than they used to. So they'll bring a lot of bands in. High school bands will go in the rotunda and do a lot of events there too. So the Mall of America is that key tourist attraction if someone's visiting Minnesota.
Okay, so they've expanded their business model because malls across America are really kind of closing down. It's becoming like a ghost town in many places. So it's good that they redesign. Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, let me get back because you know, I was born in the South, and I can carry on the conversation for a while, so I can keep you all day. But let me focus. Let me focus here. Back to the community service that your particular chapter is, and me being nosy and roaming around your Facebook page, I saw. You gentlemen were recently involved in a community event with a lady, I believe by the name of Joan Clark, and then your brother, actor Terrence Howard, was there. What was that event about? What was that all about?
Well, that was 2 different events in the same weekend. But yeah, so that's the beauty of it. That was from a Sigma standpoint, it was fantastic. Joan Clark is an iconic figure in the St. Paul community, and her husband, Otis Clark, is a Sigma. So we were really excited for the opportunity to sort of not only celebrate her and the naming of the gymnasium at their high school, but I think that the beauty of that was being able to bring a lot of the Sigma brothers there too, who not only knew her and wanted to celebrate her, but also knew, of course, Brother Clark. Terrence Howard, who is also a brother, he was there for I can't remember exactly the name of it, but it was a movie, Real Revolution, I think was the name of it. And they were talking about how Black actors are looking for how they sort of position themselves in the new Hollywood, I guess, where sometimes you're not necessarily getting paid the same amount as others. And I think that he was there to sort of talk about some of the things that, how he saw it and how he saw those things. We had the opportunity again to sort of sit down with him for a little bit and connect with him. I think the hope is we're going to bring him back to town on a little more permanent basis on some of the things that he's looking at. Yeah, absolutely.
So there's an entertainment industry in Minnesota?
It's yes and no. I mean, it's more. I wouldn't say it's huge, but there are a lot of folks who are in that acting space. It's a little more theater, I guess, here than it is sort of the Hollywood feel. I know that a few different movies have come here and sort of filmed parts of things that they do, but I wouldn't say there's a motion picture scene here so much, but there is a lot of folks that are in that creative and entertainment space. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And circle back to Joan Clark, the gymnasium. She was an educator.
Yes, well, she was not only an educator, but she was the one, in my opinion, I kind of used her model myself and sort of modeled she was big on getting kids into college, right? And so in a community aspect, both through her church and through herself, personally in the St. Paul area, she was really the leader in the space of sort of creating that, not only HBCU college fairs, but college fairs in general, college and career fairs. Because when she was roaming through it back in the day and saw kids just milling around, she's like, why aren't you in school? And if you don't get back to school, you're not going to go to college. And then she realized there needed to be an opportunity to sort of create space for kids who were kind of like, are you going to go to school? Are you going to go to work? Or what does that look like? But then also bring your parents in as well. So where do your parents fit into this mix of making sure they're pushing you to do the same thing? So I'd like to say 50 years she's been doing that work. And I think that the beauty of what she does, Joan Clark, is that she celebrated throughout all different types of industries in the state. Just last year, we honored her at the 100 Black Men Twin Cities. She was one of our 3 iconic. She won the Service or Legacy Award is what it was, for the work that she does in the state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities, St. Paul specifically. And so there's never a time that you'll see her sitting down. Even at this point, she's still going after it. So we're really excited to sort of support her in anything she's doing as well.
Great, great. We can only aspire to be like her.
Agreed. 100%.
Well, let me switch reels a little bit and talk about a project that you've got going on, because as I mentioned before we got started, I was so excited to see it. Anytime I see somebody else doing some of the work, something similar to the work that I'm doing, I get excited. But you currently are involved in a podcast. You're co-host of a podcast, Changing the Narrative. Explain that project and how it came to be.
Yeah, so myself and Dr. Warren, who's a friend of mine, of course, but he was also a member of the 100 Black Men Twin Cities. We were sitting around one day and we thought, what could we do? I've always wanted to be in the podcast space, but I've never really understood it. I just like to talk a lot. And then he was in that podcast space as an educator as well and a college professor and wanted to get back into it. So we were both sitting around thinking about what we could do and what were kind of important issues right now that we should sort of focus on. Being in Minnesota, of course, a lot of it had to do with some of the systemic racism challenges that we have, but specifically around Black men and some of the challenges that Black men have just quite honestly navigating the city. So what we really wanted to do was sort of figure out what that looked like and talk to, not necessarily the mayors of cities or the CEOs and whatnot, but just talk to regular guys about how they experience being Black in Minnesota, being Black in America, and how we can go about changing that narrative. And what we really wanted to do was sort of create the podcast to create space and a platform. But realistically, our goal is to get an audience of white folks. We want folks to sort of understand, like, these are the people you see wandering around the city, working with you next door, volunteering in the communities, teachers in your schools, and not necessarily let the narrative of what you see on television a lot. And a lot of times you see that, either sports or trouble, right? You're either in trouble or you're in sports or you're in entertainment. And that's kind of your picture of Black men. And quite honestly, we're doing a number of different things. We're not only educators, we're CEOs, and we're running nonprofits. We're sort of in the community in a number of different ways, church folks, and parents and fathers and all those things. And I think that that's really what we wanted to highlight, but then we wanted to show that was something that not only us, the 2 of us being there, but make sure that we bring in folks all the time to do it. So Sunday nights, we record them. We do it via Zoom, much like this, and then we sort of then push it into our social media channels and whatnot.
Awesome. So my mentor had told me many years ago, and it's always stuck with me, that the negative is always louder than the positive. So
100%.
we have to put much more effort into putting these positive messages out there.
You're absolutely.
So I heard that you say you push it out on your social media, but is it available on other platforms as well?
Yeah, so wherever you listen to podcasts, so we're on all of them. So whether it's Spotify, Apple, of course, Google. And then I think we're filming them more on YouTube now too. Right now it's going through Dr. Gabriel's YouTube channel, but you can type in Changing the Narrative and it'll pop up. But I think that the beauty of it is we want to sort of get to the point where we're seasoned enough, if you will, to do the kind of in-person, two mics and a guest kind of mic kind of thing. That's,
Okay.
you know, it's kind of a goal, but right now we're finding some traction with the Zoom meetings, but I think ultimately that's kind of have that video component is something that we're really sort of striving for. We're still young though. We're young podcasters, so we're figuring it out.
Young but mighty, young but mighty.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go.
Let me ask you this then, because you mentioned the in-person. So when it comes to guests, are you only looking for people in the Minnesota or men in the Minnesota area, or will that expand anybody?
Yeah, it's expanded now. So a lot of Dr. Gabriel's from the Alabama area. So a lot of folks are coming from the South. So we have a lot of his friends and connections and also folks that he's may have worked with in the past. I grew up on an Air Force base in North Dakota.
I'm an Air Force brat. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Minot, North Dakota. I grew up on an Air Force base there and moved to Minneapolis as an adult and moved to Chicago as well. So we're grabbing folks from wherever we've been. And a lot of them, you know, a few folks are from Minnesota. A few folks are part of different organizations we're a part of. But quite honestly, most of the folks right now are from other areas outside of the state of Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your co-host, is he D9 or no?
He is not. I'll try to get him in.
Just keep
I'm sure a number of folks would try, but I'm closest to him right now, so I think I can get him.
Awesome. Okay.
Always recruiting. I'm always recruiting.
That's right. Well, let me ask you to kind of expound on the messaging of your podcast.
Sure.
There is a let me see here, because we have to be politically correct in today's world here. There is a messaging, there's a constant messaging here in the United States of if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and apply yourself, you will be on equal playing field with everybody else. And you, Mr. Benson, are clearly an example of that. You're educated, you're a professional man. My question is, here in 2024, when you walk into professional spaces as a Black man, do you feel you are treated on the equal playing field as others, or?
I will say yes and no, depending upon if they know me on the front end, right? So that how I get into rooms is generally through connections and relationships. So from that perspective, absolutely. If I'm just a random, making cold calls, trying to talk to folks, and then they do a quote unquote a LinkedIn search or whatever that looks like, and it's like, okay, I don't know what this guy's about. They may or may not call me back. But what I see more so as young people, the challenges young people have in that space and navigating that space, because it's really not about what I've done. I'm not over, my career is not over, I guess, if you will, but I'm really at that point where I'm really trying to position college age students who are coming out into the workforce and making sure they don't suffer from some of those challenges you speak of. Because I think ultimately that's going to be where we sort of see that change. Right now, I mean, it's subtle. I like to believe that, racism is always going to be there. Some places it's more overt, sometimes it's more subtle. And I think in Minnesota, it's kind of like, the phrase Minnesota nice. No one wants to rock the boat kind of deal, and you just don't want to sort of cause any problems. Whereas maybe in the South or some other places, you may see some things a little more just in your face, and they may say, something just like, I'm just not going to do this because you are that. And I think that that's something that you don't necessarily see here so much. But at the same time, it's really cliquey, right? So, I mean, like anywhere, you hire people, you hire people you're comfortable with, you hire people that are recommended. And if your network doesn't include Black folks, then you're clearly not going to be part of those conversations. So bigger contracts or bigger opportunities or RFPs or anything that comes across, oftentimes Black folks have to sort of jump through more hoops just to find out about them. Whether they're qualified or not, or whether they have the infrastructure to do the job is another conversation. But I think ultimately just to have an opportunity to apply and have an opportunity to know about it takes understanding where your network is and making sure you're able to bring folks in. So I never try to come in alone, no matter what I do. If I'm taking a job, consulting or otherwise, most of the people that I work with will be Black, whether it's a graphic designer, a web designer, whether it's sort of someone in that leadership teaching or coaching or panel discussions, whatever that looks like. I just intentionally focus on that. And part of it is truly just to give them a platform as well, right? I can sit back in the background and do what I do, but it allows these younger folks who are starting their businesses or starting their lives or starting doing what they're doing to sort of be elevated. And that's kind of my goal right now, passion right now.
Well, we can see why Zeta Nu Sigma picked you as their president. We can see that. All right. I was a little perplexed there. I said he just pledged and walked in, but as the interview unfolds, it is clearly apparent, And you know, some of the stuff you mentioned, I think that's the beauty of being a part of the D9 organizations is that you have people that are willing to bring you in, you know, and give you that exposure and all of that stuff. So, well, let me wrap up things here and bring it back to Zeta Nu Sigma, because you appear to be, I got the whole lowdown, but you appear to be a more than equipped leader. So Zeta Nu Sigma has what on the plate for 2024? We just finished the first quarter, so I'm pretty sure you've got a plan for the gentleman that they have to follow. So
well, we are excited about some of the opportunities of clearly Sickle Cell Foundation is kind of key to us right now. So we're really partnering with them, not only on a blood drive that we're doing, but some of those rare disease pushes and fundraisers that they're doing. March of Dimes, March for Babies is also coming up in May. That's going to be really exciting because that's something that we always like to sort of not only get behind from a fundraising standpoint, but a lot of the brothers come out for that. It's at the Mall of America, so we can get a lot. We compete in fundraising with all the other D9, so it's always a good time as well. We actually have our Greek Week coming up this summer, and that sort of falls in line with Juneteenth as well. So we're really excited for the next few months and some of the things that we're getting after as we roll into obviously gift giving in the holiday seasons. And, you know, we talk about Thanksgiving and, you know, turkeys and all the stuff that we do there. But we really want to make sure that we're a part of this election year as well, bringing not only Black men out to vote, but bringing Black folks out to vote. And, you know, whatever side you're on doesn't really matter to me as long as you're registered to vote and get out and do that. So we're going to be really pushing that throughout the year as well.
Okay, awesome. You just finished. We just finished having prelims out there. Okay.
Yep. I think the candidates are set. If I'm being honest, we know who it's going to be now. Now it's just time to go to the polls and
go to the polls. That's all we can say, folks. Is just go to the polls. That's all we can say.
Politically correct, right?
Yeah, just be politically correct. And you mentioned, I want to circle back because I think it's important. You mentioned one of the reasons that kind of brought you into this is your work with scholarships and young people. Your chapter, do you have a Sigma Beta club?
Yep, we're chartering it this year. So we actually did not have one officially. We've been working with students. We adopted a school as well. So St. Louis Park Middle School. We've adopted them as well as our location for what will be our Sigma Beta Club and running those programming. And the beauty of that programming as well is we have a lot of educators in our chapter. So it's kind of nice to be in a school where the kids know each other, but then also have some Black teachers coming in, if you will, to sort of help them navigate that and having Black boys learn in all the different areas, not only from the financial literacy to STEM and some of the mathematics that we do. It's just a good opportunity, and having Black men teach that is something we're really excited about.
Okay, that's great. You know, I don't know and this is unofficial research here, but I don't know what it is about Phi Beta Sigma, but you guys are more educators than any of the other D9. I don't know what it is.
I think we all fall under the service umbrella. I think all the D9 fall under service umbrella, but I think how you serve is just, you know, I think from a educational standpoint, a lot of guys want to go back and not only get their masters, when you get into the doctors and all those type of things. And it's just the beauty of serving in a different way. And you realize that education is one of those things that'll catapult folks further quicker, if you will, than anything else.
That's great. And you know, and having these conversations with these young folks today, a lot of them are not seeing the benefit in education, but I I don't know what the future will.
We're working on that. Obviously, I think that we are really focused on getting the Black boys, and not that, I mean, we really want our Black ladies to be there too, but from a Sigma standpoint, Sigma Beta Club standpoint, we need our Black boys going to college.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we're giving them those opportunities to do that. And nothing against trade schools or anything else. We want all those things, but education is going to be the key to all of it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Trade schools are wonderful, but as we see that with this changing world, AI and whatever, you know, some skill sets. Well, let me do my random question, so I can get you on your way. You said I am the finish of the conclusion of your day, so let me get you on. Is it? No, it's not supposed to be first Wednesday. So, oh, that's too much. Let's see here. What superpower would you want to have?
That's an easy one. I would want to be invisible. Invisibility is something that as a kid, I was trying to figure out how I could become invisible, just so for a number of different reasons. One was just so I could see what Christmas presents were being wrapped. But then, but as I grew up, I realized I could be in rooms and understand what people thought about me, kind of deal, and sort of navigate how I do that. I'd never really thought of it from a crime standpoint, but robbing banks might be a little easier if you're invisible. So invisibility is one of those things that easy question, easy answer for me.
Awesome. So you can see who would think anything negative about you? Why would you?
Well, you never know.
Not Mr. Benson. No. Well, sir, if we are ever in the Minnesota area, give us the website and all that stuff. How do we connect with you, gentlemen, and hang out with you guys?
Everywhere is going to be Minnesota Sigmas. So if you're looking on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, is going to be Instagram is ZNS 1977. Everything else is going to be Minnesota Sigmas. Also, please look into our podcast, Changing the Narrative podcast, on all your platforms there. And then finally, from 100 Black Men, Twin Cities, we're doing some great things as well. So 100 BMTC is also something, a hashtag and you can find us at too. We're excited.
I love it. I love it, especially my fellow Air Force military brats. You know, I really run into one of us. It's a very special, unique world we experience. So
absolutely.
But anyways, I thank you for your time. I thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing, the example that you're setting. You're changing the narrative, and I appreciate that. And just give my love to the rest of the guys, and kudos to everybody.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.